What's up, y'all? So, I didn't compete this year. The show was on the 7th, my birthday, which was a couple days ago. They canceled the show, first of all. Let's just say this. They canceled the show because there was not enough competitors. However, about a month prior to them canceling the show, I had actually decided that I wasn't going to compete. The only reason I decided that I wasn't going to compete was because my motivations just were not there. Well, first, primarily, we're trying to get land. My wife and I, we're trying to get land, and it just seemed crazy. We're about to make a move, and it just seemed crazy to spend money on the show when there's no type of payoff. In the beginning, I thought that competing again after competing the first time, there would be some sort of payoff as far as like, not necessarily notoriety, but I guess appeal to authority. But I started to find out that people actually sought the advice less because they thought it didn't apply to them because I'm a bodybuilder. And then the guys who are wanting to bodybuild, they don't want the advice because I'm not juiced to the gills on steroids. I'm a natural. And so it was kind of putting me in like a gray space, labeling as a natural bodybuilder and competing. And so that was the motivation for going the second time. But if that's not what it's going to do for me, that motivation essentially dies. And then after that, I don't really want to compete again. Like in the beginning, I competed the first time because I wanted to place. I was like, I believe that I can place, and I did. And that was awesome. And then I said, I want to compete again when I'm 40. Because I want to see, I want to compete in the Masters, but I want to see what I can build, in that 3 years time. And that, I'm on the road to that. But I competed again because I was like, oh, it's going to help me as a personal trainer, but it really isn't helping me. So those were the two reasons, that and land were the two reasons that I decided not to compete. Oh, and then there was a third reason. I skateboard. And when I originally came back into the gym training properly, it was so that I could extend my life on the skateboard. I had a car crash and a bunch of sprained ankle and a bunch of things. And so I was going to train my body more than just going out and skating after a little bit of rehab. And so I went back into the gym for that express purpose. Before that, I was just training in the gym just to train. And so I ended up becoming a bodybuilder and not skating because I didn't want to hurt myself and not be able to get on stage, not be able to hit leg day. I didn't want to go exhaust myself on the skateboard because the next day was going to be back day, or I was doing fucking rack pulls or some shit. And that completely defeated the purpose, you know what I'm saying, of me training intently in the first place. I saw that I was going to do well in bodybuilding, and I did do well, but I don't have to do that. I'm really there to be more athletic, not less athletic. And while you can be an athletic bodybuilder, it's just a different mindset you're in. You're more concerned with getting each day in versus now I can have a leg day. I can have half a leg day if I know I'm going to go skate hard. You know what I'm saying? Or I can go skate and not be upset if my legs are so sore that I can't have a super leg day the next day, or my back is so sore that I can't have a super back day the next day. I'm not like, I got 3 years before I compete again. I have time to miss a day or two, or to have a lack day or two in lieu of something more athletic, which is what I love to do. So as you can tell, I have more of a reason not to compete than to compete. So that's that. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. I appreciate everybody's support with, just everything. And, hopefully when I hit 40 and I compete in the Masters, I'm fucking jacked as hell. Because I'm trying to get strong as fuck in between that time. And obviously with strength does come size. Yes, there are some caveats, but it comes either way. Anyway, let's get into this natural talk. Because there's a few things that I wanted to talk about. And instead of making like individual videos for it, I'm just going to make it in long form. And if you respect the content, you're going to listen to it. So first of all, I've been having a lot of conversations lately with guys who are, 32, 33, just entering their 30s, and they keep talking about, one, they don't know how old I am, so they go, when you're my age, it starts to, things start to wear on you, and then they're surprised when I'm like, I'm fucking 37. But also, they're just like, oh, I'm getting into my 30s, things are starting to hurt now, I'm starting to wake up a little more sore now, yada, yada, yada. And first of all, do you respect yourself? That's the first question. Now let's just move on to why that's the worst mindset to have. First, when you're entering into your 30s, you're entering into elite territory. When you look at those old guys in their 50s and 60s who've been working the mill forever, they have these big, sinewy, thick arms, muscles all grainy and shit, you know what I'm saying? Or you look at guys who've been lifting, in their 20s all the way up to their late 40s and beyond, and their muscle just looks mature and it looks thick. They don't look like, kind of like just filled with water, you know what I mean? Like, when you're entering your 30s, you're supposed to be building that. You're supposed to be heading towards that. You're not supposed to be like, oh, my back hurts when I wake up in the morning. This is not the time to become a bitch. This is the time to become a fucking man. You're moving into elite man territory. Even though when you're in your early 20s and shit, your testosterone's probably as high as it's gonna get. You're not filled, you're filled to the brim physiologically with your own testosterone, but you're not filled with knowledge. You're not filled with wisdom when it comes to lifting. Your movements aren't crisp and refined. Your technique isn't refined. Your strength is different. It's much different. I remember doing deadlifts when I was, 23 in prison and shit, and the way I do deadlifts then versus now, I do them way more efficient. Yeah, I probably could beat my max then, but only by a little, and it's not going to look half as crisp as my max now. And that's something you get with age in lifting. And so in your 30s, you're supposed to be constructing all this shit. You're not supposed to be a bitch and complaining about not being able to touch your toes. You should be training your body. This is going to bleed right into how you should be training for your age. There's no such fucking thing. You should be training for your age doesn't exist until you're fucking 60. Instead, think of it like this. You should be training as if your body is a high performance vehicle. You can't put any type of gas in it, so you can't just be eating any kind of bullshit. You know what I'm saying? You got to make sure you do tune-ups regularly. You know what I'm saying? You got to keep each part greased up, you know what I'm saying? Clean and crisp. You got to make sure the belts aren't old and fucking, you know what I'm saying? Like cracked. You got to make sure that things are lubricated. Your body is that. Train it like that. Train it like such. I know that you want to have a casual gym life, and that works for the genetically blessed and the people who put in so much work that now it's just maintaining, right? If you put in a lot of work and you get a great physique and you learn how to maintain it properly, none of this really applies to you. You can lift like shit for a minute and still look good, but you are going to want to make sure you do rehabilitative movements to make sure your joints are good, yada, yada. But everybody else, man, like you got to really pay attention to this shit. Like you got to become a chemist with your body. You got to become a nutritionist. You have to become a scientist with this, and you have to make it a part of your lifestyle. And I don't care if you got a bunch of other shit that you got to do. As a man, you should have space for this. You know what I'm saying? As a stoic man, right? If you believe in all that shit, right? You know what I'm saying? Upright man, strong-minded man, you have space for this. You have to have space for this. You make space for this because this is where you heal yourself, not just physically, but mentally and spiritually. So it's very important to learn how to train yourself. That way in your 30s, you don't fucking feel like a bitch. You know what I'm saying? And then you can learn that all it really means is just training hard. You know what I'm saying? Like keep a logbook. Everybody wants to go with the app, and I respect it if that's what you do, but as long as you're keeping track of what you do in the gym, because if you do, you'll know that either you're not getting better or you're doing the same thing over and over, or you're getting stronger. And that's a great way to gauge your progress. Makes things easy for you. But keep a logbook. That's very important. Keep a logbook. And Stop taking advice from every single motherfucker on the internet. Even me. If you don't fucking like what I'm saying, don't take advice from me. Here's the thing about advice on the internet. It's everywhere. And when it comes to fitness, a lot of natural, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to say it as the consumer, not as the giver of this content. As the consumer of this content, a natural guy in his late 30s, he has, he's got a job to do. He's got a family to work with and raise. He don't have time to do all of these things. He has to fit it in correctly, right? As that type of guy, most of the content that you're going to find doesn't even apply. Most of the content, you got these guys who are enhanced, who are giving guys tips on how to eat, but they eat a low testosterone diet because they're fucking geared up. They don't give a fuck about red meat. They don't give a fuck about the cholesterol. Great things for your testosterone, right? They think that they're helping you, the natty. They're like, eat this to get lean. But then you eat that to get lean and you're crashing your test levels. Or you got guys who got big doing all sorts of shit, but now the exercises that they do are the ones they want to prescribe to you. And so you're like, oh, he got big doing that, I should do that. And a lot of times that shit just don't fucking work, bro. It don't fucking work. Listen, bro science is 50-50 good and bad. And a lot of the shit that people consume is mostly bad. And all of the good bro science exists in the natural lifter space. I'm gonna say it. It exists in the natural lifter space. Where you see the natty lifters giving advice, they're most likely giving you the bro science that applies to you, that will actually help you. Versus the bro science coming from these guys on gear, or to be these guys who have been natural for a little bit, but they spent most of their time on gear. I hate to break it to you, you still respond differently. Things are still different for you. It doesn't matter. And they don't want to tell you that because that's not profitable. So you got to take this advice with a grain of salt. Not everything applies to you. And most of these guys who are geared up are not giving you advice that will truly be applicable to your lifestyle. You got to listen to guys who are fitting what your lifestyle's like. You know what I'm saying? That not just because they're swole and massive does not mean the movements they prescribe will help you. And you got to learn to understand that. You got to learn how to distinguish between a guy who measures properly and a guy who just gets big because he's on fucking trend. You know what I'm saying? So that just had to be said. I don't really have anything else right now. I can't wait for this fucking presidential debate. That's going to be pretty dope. I'm gonna fucking have a great time watching that with the wife. We're gonna make a lot of jokes at the expense of both of these people. And much love, y'all. Peace out.